Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of the Variety Gaming Podcast. We're going to be kicking off season 2, and today's featured game is Throne and Liberty. We're also going to be introducing a new segment called Back in My Day, where we visit gaming history for the month of October and the games that we remember, the stories that have kind of made their way through history to today, and joined as always my prepubescent facial-haired co-host Atrax. Tell us about the game, sir.
Well, all right, look. Just because I don't glue mine on like you do, okay, doesn't mean it's prepubescent. All right, this is a man's beard, okay? All right, look, we're having a segment called Back in My Day, okay? So we're old enough. This is a man's beard. And the poor people at home don't even get to see it, you jerk. Now it's a thing. Now I have to show the facial hair. Majority of our listeners know what it looks like. But regardless, you know what will give you some facial hair? Our game, Throne and Liberty, because it's a grind fest developed by NCSoft and published by Amazon Games. That's right, it's an Amazon Games studio game, folks. Welcome to Throne and Liberty, a free-to-play multi-platform MMORPG with an always-changing environment, massive-scale PvPvE, and the ability to transform into creatures to battle across land, sea, and air. Available on the PC, Mac, PS5, Xbox Series X, and S. Released on October 1st, 2020.
Enough with that, Atrax! We have a war going on. There are people dying as we're sitting here talking about a game that doesn't matter. I mean, it's been 14 days since the last communication. We need to update the people with what's happening over here.
Whoa. What are you talking about? What's going on? There's a war going on?
Yes, there's a war going on. In 3 weeks, we have 3.1 million casualties. It's been a standstill at 23 victories to 16 victories. Territory's been taken, but sir, we need reinforcements. If you're an able-bodied person who can click a mouse and just be a part of the colonists, grab a gun. Get over here.
That was so great. For those of you who have no clue what's going on, Rayu is talking about our game of the season, Foxhole. It's been 2 weeks since we've been able to talk about. I mean, we mentioned it in our season 1 finale, but we haven't really gotten to talk about the game. And oddly enough, we haven't played it a whole lot. I've played it for just a little bit, like a very little bit. I hopped onto the front and I helped drive forward the colonial forces for Lynn of Mercy. But that's about it. But as you mentioned, Rayu, 3.1 million casualties for both sides combined in 3 weeks. Still 23 victory points for the green side. Go Colonials. 16 victory points for the Wardens. Although I have heard, I'm a beginner still, but I have heard that the late game belongs to the Wardens. We're 20 days at war. So we are getting there. We'll have to see. And Rayu, you and I need to hop on and help our colonial brethren push forward those Wardens before they out-technologicalize us, because we're just the colonials over here.
The one thing I will say is that even though it has been 20 IRL days for this war, the fact that, yes, the casualties are piling, but I don't know if it's necessarily saying how good of a defense that the Wardens are able to post up and keep the margin of victory as it was at the first time we covered this game. But or just the sheer numbers, because I don't know if we can get an accurate count on player base, who's on Colonials, who's on Wardens, to see like if there is a little bit more of a difference, but it's crazy. It's like every time you gain in one area, you lose in another, and you're just trying to balance it out to get a victory. So
I have heard that the Warden's side has a quote unquote strike, as in there aren't really as many Warden players. A majority of the veteran Warden players took a break, things like that. But the game still has, I mean, right now, as of our recording, there's 2,000 playing. So the game is relatively alive. I would imagine they're all on the same server. So there's still stuff going on. And now's the time to get into it. You know what I mean? Especially with sales coming up. It's $30 right now, full price. But man, you get that on a Steam sale, 50% off, $15. Boom. Hop in with the VGP. You know what I mean?
yeah, let us know if you guys do decide to jump into the game. Love to play with you guys, figure things out, push together. It's always fun. So let us know. So now that you've gotten our update for our game of the season, let's go ahead and we're going to dive into our featured game for this episode. As I mentioned, it is Throne and Liberty. And I'm really excited to cover this because I think we'll get to see kind of a difference in Atrax's style of MMOs or games in general and mine. So again, I'm really excited about this because I think both of us have played MMOs. Atrax has done a lot of WoW coverage. I've done a lot of Star Wars: The Old Republic coverage. And just to see how this game, what we saw in it, what we experienced, what we liked, we didn't like, all of these things, I think this will make for a fun little conversation piece. So, Atrax, I will let you take the floor, good sir. What is your thoughts on the game?
All right. So, because you mentioned really quick, you mentioned that I had played a good amount of WoW, and that's true. I've played a good amount of MMOs in general. I would argue I've played at least 500 hours of WoW, Guild Wars 2, RuneScape, Albion Online, Terra. That's probably it. Oh, Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I played 100 hours of Secret World Legends. Maybe about 100 hours in Lost Ark and another 100 hours in New World. So I say this because I have played a vast majority of MMOs. Probably about 100, maybe 150 hours of Final Fantasy 14. Now that I think about it too, I didn't mention that one. So like a vast majority of MMOs. And to me, this game, Throne and Liberty, it's not bad, but everything that I am about to say, I preface this with I don't think it's bad. It's just mid. So, like, my Counter-Strike fellow fans out there will know, for me, this game is like Mirage. Or maybe if you're a Call of Duty fan, it's like Nuketown. In the sense of, like, it's fine. Yeah, you can go play it, and, like, it looks good, and there's different level designs, and there are some things that I really like about it, which I'll get into, but it's just so, like, if you told me this was a Lost Ark or a New World update and not a brand new game, I would believe you. I'd be like, whoa, they changed the game a bit, but that's cool. Like, that's awesome. The cutscenes are really good. I think they're well done. There's a lot of written dialogue. I skip that. I kind of know what's going on, but not really. Again, it is a free-to-play MMORPG, so it's like it's just your standard MMO. I would say it's almost like your standard Asian region MMO in the sense of there's like it just kind of dumps you in there and there's a bunch of different systems and there's like the beginning starting zone is one of the hub areas and there's like a million quests and a million things popping up on the screen and it's like immediately this is how you upgrade your materials, this is how you do this is how you do that, this is how you do that, this is how you do that, this is how you do that. I was giving 5 abilities for 2 different weapons to use off the start. I hadn't even reached level 5 and I had like 10 abilities and I had to swap in between weapons and like I'm just kind of dumped into this like here you go, here's all your buttons. Read all of the text and figure out what you're supposed to do. Either that or just run around and spam F and like gather a whole bunch of random stuff that you like don't really know what you're supposed to do. So either you look it up or you just keep playing and then your inventory fills with more random crap that you don't know if you need or not. Like, it's just kind of it. It's too much all at once. Like, it's genuinely just like, I understand for veteran MMO players that this is probably what you want. You just want to be dumped into the starting and have all the things to do right away and just like go on your own path and whatnot. I understand it. I don't think it's a terrible thing, but for me, maybe especially right now in the current gaming scene as it is, there, with everything going on and all the stuff to do, it's probably just like maybe it just falls into this sea of random stuff. But like, I don't. It's just like then. Oh yeah, another thing too that I found random. So games have waypoints and MMOs have waypoint systems. This one, for some reason, has like when you get a new waypoint, has this Assassin's Creed like, this is the surrounding area, and let me explain the vast history of this area as I'm showing it to you. And it's like, yeah, you can skip it, but who is that for? What is the reason for that stuff in there? And again, all of this dialogue that you just F spam through. I will say, because of all the stuff you spam through, I appreciate that they have an audio narrator that tells you the important things. So I just skipped through one of I think it was the item upgrader. I skipped through one of their dialogues, and then at the very end, the audio narrator was like, "This NPC has given you an upgraded item. You can continue to upgrade that item at the NPC. This will help you further your stats and blah, blah, blah." And that was nice because it's almost like they know that you're going to skip through all of the dialogue. I don't know. It's kind of odd to me. I see why people like it. I see because it's different. It's presented in a different way. It's like the same thing presented in a different way. I see why people like it. I don't hate the game or dislike the game. I will quote unquote recommend it to people, as in like, I mean, yeah, if you want to give it a go, sure. And it's not going to be like a Destiny game for me where I'm like, don't play it. Definitely don't. But it just doesn't do anything for me. You know, like I fell asleep playing it for a little bit for like, I don't know, half an hour or so. It's just kind of random. But one strong critique, and this goes for games, like all games that upgrade on a chance should be eliminated from gaming. Get them out of here. I don't care what it is. Diablo Immortal, this game, like there's, oh my goodness. I don't even want to start. Get them out of here. They have no space in gaming. You spend your upgrade materials to upgrade your gear. That is it. I don't want to spend my materials for a 10% chance at a million XP, a 20% chance at 500,000 XP, and a whatever percent chance for like 10 XP. Screw that. I spend my items. I want to get my upgrade. Like, no, get those games out of here. They have no place in gaming whatsoever. This is a terrible mechanic. It will always be a terrible mechanic. I hate it. No. And Rayu, I have this in my notes. I'm going to be honest. You're crazy for being addicted to this game. Kappa Kappa. Because like, oh man, dude. It's so mid, bro. This one's actually a 6 out of 10. TFD was like a fake 6 out of 10. It was actually more like a 7, 8 out of 10. This game's actually 6. It's so mid, dude. It's so mid. Defend yourself.
Okay. So, just again, as I mentioned, we have some experience here playing MMOs. So, since you ran down your credentials,
yep. Let's hear your resume.
All right. 1,600 hours in Star Wars: The Old Republic. That's just logged on Steam. Before Star Wars: The Old Republic was moved to Steam, they had the Origins server or I'm sorry, the Origin launcher, and then they had their own individual launcher. I had another 1,000 hours on their on the EA launcher. So we'll just chalk it up, call it what it is, including the one when it was by itself before it was combined with EA. We'll just say 3,000 hours in Star Wars: Old Republic. In addition to that, I have 856 hours in New World. I have 214 hours in Lost Ark. So a lot of MMO experience. This isn't including like RuneScape or like Adventure Quest Worlds, all these web-based ones either. So a lot of experience with MMOs. So with this one for me, I feel like this is more of a relationship between New World and other tab targeting titles in the MMO genre. So your Star Wars: Old Republic, your WoW, and the reason being why I feel it's that relationship. New World was the first MMO, at least to my knowledge. Again, if I'm incorrect, please correct me in the comments. That New World was the first MMO that introduced weapon switching, active weapon switching in combat. So what Atrax?
I'm gonna do a quick Google while you talk. I think Terra or BDO, but I will double check.
Now, what I mean when I say active weapon swapping, so in New World, it was the same idea that if you had a sword and shield, you could use your abilities and then switch to a great sword, for example, and then you had a new list of abilities that you could use while your other abilities are on cooldown.
Ooh, Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 was the first to do it.
For weapon swapping? That's interesting. I didn't think there were multiple weapons in Guild Wars 2.
Yep. Swapping has a cooldown of 10 seconds during combat, but you can swap repeatedly out of combat.
Okay, so then maybe
Guild Wars 2.
I guess I need to rephrase that, because what I mean is like in combat. So New World, like I said, you could pop your abilities, hit your swap button immediately. Like there wasn't a cooldown between the weapons. It was just a cooldown on the weapon specific abilities. And then, like I said, you would swap, do your combination or whatever with that weapon, and you could just swap back to the next weapon. Either way, Guild Wars 2 did it first. That being said, this one has, and when I say this one, I mean Throne and Liberty, makes it to where even using your abilities, you don't have to swap your weapons. It's just an additional weapon. It's an additional stat boost. It's additional power. So, which is something that for me, because I'm tanking in this one and I took a break from tanking for a while, for me, that's something that I'm like, okay, this is really cool because I will get all of my active and passive stat boosts off of my second weapon that I'll be able to use to my advantage for my first weapon. So for me, since I'm using the sword and shield, on one character, I'm using a great sword. On another character, I'm using a wand. And that's because with the great sword and the sword and shield, you're more of like I like to say you're an actual tank for it, because one of the more primary stats of the great swords is like max health, and part of their passive tree is more health and more defense. And then you go into the wand and you're more healing. At least that's what I've gone down. So it's something that I just like the fact that I do get those passive and active stat boosts from secondary weapons to primary weapons, which is really cool. I like the feel of the combat. Even though it is a tab targeter, traditionally, it does have an action mode to where it will automatically aim for you on everything, which is really cool. I appreciate the controller support. I've tested it out on a controller, and I've tested it on mouse and keyboard. Because of so much experience with traditional MMOs, I feel more comfortable on a mouse and keyboard. But I do like the controller configuration and the inputs. I really don't notice any lag. I don't have any issue aiming because, again, it's on a controller. So, especially, and when you're on a controller, it locks you into action camera, so you can't like switch your target. So that's something that helps it out as well. I mentioned the weapon combinations just that I'm running. There are a lot of weapon combinations. And sure, you can go on and you can look at builds and guides and find a content creator that you like that's playing this game that'll tell you, oh, this is the best thing. And you can look at tier lists or play what it is you want. If you like having a longbow and a dagger, or you like having a wand and a staff, or whatever it is you want to play with, go play with it. I really don't feel like, of course, you'll have like your meta builds and all that kind of stuff. That's unfortunately something that we have in MMOs is there's always the best of the best. But the weapon combinations give you a lot of freedom to test your play style, to change your play style. You do want to just have an idea about what you want to do before you like fully commit into like building things. Just from the fact that you do have weapon skills or weapon mastery, which is cool in this game, because with the weapon mastery, you do get more benefits to sticking with a weapon for an extended period of time. So that's something that's really cool. And the animations for the weapon combinations is cool, like especially with the sword and shield. I have a shield charge, and then I have a dash on top of it with a great sword. So it's like this really long gap closer, I like to call it, for that particular character. And then you have some that can like turn invisible, and then you have some that can, cast lightning and fire right at their feet. And it's just really cool, the animations and the looks of the weapons. One of the things that's really cool about this game, just like other MMOs, it has dungeons or flashpoints or whatever you want to call them. They're a series where you go, you fight a bunch of trash mobs, you have mini bosses, and then you have one big boss. And each one of the mini bosses has a mechanic that you need to keep in mind when you're fighting them. And the game doesn't, this is one thing I like and I don't like at the same time. It doesn't really tell you what the mechanics are. You have to figure this stuff out for yourself, or the group that you're running with. Hope that somebody there knows what to do. The first dungeon, for example, with Spectre's Abyss, the very first boss, it's pretty obvious that you don't stand in the AoEs. But then the second boss that you get to, the big knight with the big shield and the bubble that comes up, if you don't know that is a damage check, just make sure that you can break that bubble, then you take a big chunk of damage. And if your healer's not strong enough or your tank isn't tanky enough, you're probably going to wipe. I know we did the first couple of times we tried it. So that's something that's really cool. Same with the very last boss. It has a mechanic where he has a voice line, and there's this big dark circle with a dark AoE at the person's feet that everyone has to group up on that person to spread that damage around with everyone. Otherwise, everybody gets hit, everybody dies. So, but that's something that you learn as you progress through it. But I do like the look of the dungeons. I like the feel of the dungeons. I like how the bosses are done. The bosses' designs are really cool. The movesets are unique from dungeon to dungeon. So what you're doing in this one isn't going to be what you're doing in the second one. And from what I understand, again, I'm not in the end game by any means. I don't really have any idea what end game looks like. My max character right now is like 40 something. So I don't have all the crazy gear doing the PvP. I don't have all of that yet. I've just been enjoying the story. But what I was saying, apparently from what what I have been told from people who are in that content range, is that as you go back through these dungeons on the higher levels, the mechanics do change, and it forces you to be more managing. It forces you to be more conscious of the resources you're expending. And what I mean is your stamina resources, your mana resources, your health is even a resource in some instances, which is really cool because it makes it to where, okay, even though I know the base idea of what this boss is going to do, I have to now be on my toes and understand that this is going to be a little bit different. So it does add a nice level of replayability, at least for me. Open world PvP instances. Now, this is something, if you read world chat as you're going through this game, there are a lot of people that will be upset, and I'll call it what it is. They'll be butthurt over the fact that they went to go fight this world boss, and it's a PvP instance world boss, and they're like, "Oh, why can't you guys just let us kill the boss?"
Did you hear about that?
Oh,
You heard about that, huh?
It continued hours after the boss fight.
So for those For those who don't know, this did actually happen to one of the people that we play Throne and Liberty with. I wasn't actually there, but I was in the world playing while it happened, and I got to see the world chat and people. It was basically like a war in chat. There were the people who were like, "You don't do this," and then there were the other people who were like, "Lol, get good. We're the best guild. Flex V for the win," or
Yep.
whatever.
And so this is what I will say, okay? The way that this game is designed with these world boss events, there is a peaceful one, which is straight PvE. It's everyone comes together to beat the boss. Cool. And then there is a conflict instance, which is an open world PvP guild sanctioned fight with the world boss. So not only are you battling a world boss with just your guild, you're also battling other people who are trying to get credit for that world boss. So it makes it a little bit more complicated and a little bit more, I like to say it's fun. Because sure, you can have these higher level people that are doing these things. Well, that's where it helps to, and believe it or not, Atrax and I had this discussion before, it helps to read what's happening before you go in.
Dude, it's 2024. I don't want to read. It's 2020. Dude, can you imagine how much time it would take if I had to read? Look, I'm not a slow reader, all right? Like, I would describe myself as average, if not slightly above average, but probably average in speed and comprehension. Like, come on, dude. That is so much stuff to read. Forget it, dude. Forget it.
Okay,
Let alone
so
think about how each one plays into the other. And nah, dude.
okay.
Not worth my time in
If you
2024.
can't read it, that's okay. But can you tell the difference between a green color and a red color?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what it does.
Green
it says
is the best color.
conflict in red, and then peace in green.
I mean, look, I will let the people who want world PvP have your world PvP. It's not my thing. I really do not care for it. It's one of the reasons I wasn't super fond of Albion in the later stages, but I will say that I understand certain people want it, and I don't think that those who want it should be restricted from having it. And you do what you can do. You try and separate them out, red and green. It is what it is. I personally would want like a separate zone for that you like load into or something, and maybe you do, that is a PvP only zone where those world bosses spawn. But again, that's just like personal preference nitpicking. It is what it is. Like, I understand why they have it, and again, I don't think that those who want it should be prevented from having it, because I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't like the mechanic myself, but it is what it is. Just go to the green ones, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you know what you're getting into, and you know that, okay, this is a conflict event, you can kind of be more prepared, or you just steer clear of it, and then you just look at the schedule and say, all right, cool, in an hour, the peaceful instance of this same boss fight's going to be here. And because it's a world event, there is a massive world announcement that it doesn't matter where you are. It's going to tell you, hey, by the way, this event is happening over here. So you can, and it even gives you a teleport. You could just click it and it puts you over there, which is really nice. But the PvP instances I have gotten into that I've been like, okay, we're going to do this thing. We're going to go in there. I understand what's happening. They're a lot of fun. And they are chaotic, but a good type of chaotic. There are instances where you're randomly assigned a team. Like, you just walk into the instance like, okay, cool, this person's green, this person's blue, this person's red. And it's just a three-way battle to see who can, get the most kills, collect the most the resources, whatever the situation calls for. But the amount of people that are doing it. The amount of people that are like, okay, cool, this is PvP, and they accept it even if they're not max level, even if they're not in high gear, but they're willing to just go through the motions because it's a fun little thing to do. It breaks up the monotony of let me go kill this, let me go turn this in, and it's a little fun thing that happens. Has been absolutely awesome to see. It gives me a lot of hope for these big siege PvP fights that'll happen. It gives me a lot of hope for these guild claim battles that'll happen. I'm really excited to see that stuff. But the PvP I feel is really well done. I, for one, because most of my time in the Old Republic was spent doing PvP with max level characters, I don't want to say that and with PvP in Star Wars Old Republic, it used to have world PvP, but the population kind of dwindled down, so it became more sanctioned PvP. I don't want to say the sanctioned PvP is bad. From the clips and the moments that I've seen from different Twitch streams and Kick streams and TikTok things, it looks really cool. It looks really interesting and fun. I think that they do it a little bit better than World of Warcraft Battlegrounds does, just because it's a little bit more smaller. So once I have more experience on it, I'll gladly offer an update on my opinions of that. But other than that, the PvP feels great. Doesn't feel like there's one class that's better than the other. Everybody has their own little shtick that they can work with. So it just takes time to figure out your skill, essentially. The PvE, the flow of PvE, how it feels to go from the tutorial to the main area. I know we heard your opinion, A-Trax, on like, oh, we're going to throw everything at you. I don't mind it. Again, a veteran MMO experience. Yep, go ahead and throw all of this stuff at me just because I want to get into it.
I have to ask you really quick. I'm going to interject. So I want to specifically in regards to the UI. Do you feel, I understand WoW has a lot of stuff that they put at you. Most MMOs do, just like a ton of menus, a ton of this, ton of that. Do you feel that Amazon games menus, do you feel like there's just way too many menus in the UI? Because I feel like Guild Wars, WoW, Final Fantasy's menu is pretty pop-up-ish, but like RuneScape especially, and some of these other MMOs, Albion, like their UI and their menus are just so much simpler and so much well organized. These Amazon, like, and I think again, specifically Lost Ark, New World, and now this game, the UI is just so like, bleh. Like it just don't, like everything is just dumped and you have like this upgrade UI and you have that upgrade, like, and everything is all available. Do you think that it's over cluttered compared to other MMOs? Or do you think it's just like actually average?
So I think of, when I think of the UI, I think of like Star Wars Old Republic and how, now granted, when you first load into a character on Star Wars Old Republic, there are 20 different pop-up windows of the tutorial. Like level 1 character, you get past your cutscene. If you look at the bottom, it's like page 1 of 20 in just one massive pop-up.
Well, right, but that's one pop-up that you then scroll over. But then when you hit like M or escape for the menu. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. No. Well, what I mean is like that's just one big pop-up, but then that's not including when you go to do your upgrade pop-up, when you have all of your different your skill tree pop-ups and all of these other different menus that come in. So to me, it feels pretty normal coming from those. I think that the biggest thing that I have is just the constant tutorial direction that pop up with each instance. So it's like, as I'm going to go upgrade my gear, it's like, oh, cool, you have a piece of blue gear. Guess what? You could come over here, go to this transfer page, and then you do this. And I'm like, I understand why they're doing it, because they're wanting to try and cater a little bit more to the, newer players for MMOs, which is fine. I do like that they have the checkbox that says, do not show this again. And as long as you have that checked, you won't see these pop-ups anymore. And then to me, once those pop-ups are gone, then it becomes a traditional MMO, and I have my standard menus, upgrade menu, and everything else.
Okay.
Which, speaking of upgrade menu, and how you felt about the upgrade percentages or what have you, I didn't mind. I don't mind the upgrade chance thing. It's is what it is. Just for the simple reason that those resources, like for example, the green books you get for upgrading your skills, once you have your skills to a certain point, you're never going to use them again. So then it's just, all right, cool, I'm going to go convert those and do it again. So I don't really see it a whole lot. And especially once you get to like the purple, and that's the other thing. I like that there's only 3 tiers, at least right now. We have your green, your blue, your purple, and that's it. If they want to add this orange or red or whatever they do in the future, I'll readdress it then. But I like that, and it doesn't really bother me just because everything, like every little thing you do, gives you a reward, gives you this, gives you that, gives you an upgrade. So the power creep is at least a fair gradual climb. Like your first dungeon instance at level 20, you need 600 power. And if you don't, like, oh, why can't I do 600 power? It's like, oh, I need to upgrade some stuff. And then you go do it and you're fine. But the flow of the PvP, or I'm sorry, the PvE instances feels really good. The combat in between the missions, like go kill these crabs, go kill these snakes or whatever they are, feels really good. The combat feels nice. I do like how some of them are yellow, which is they're neutral until you attack them, and there are some kind of mixed in that are red that will attack you immediately. That's pretty cool. And I also like how how the respawn rates of the mobs is very, very high. So it's like you'll see like a good 20 players in one area farming everything, but it's like you come in and they're already starting to respawn. So that makes the game just kind of progress a little bit more. Quest flow has been nice from chapter 1 to I believe I'm on chapter 6 now. Has been really, really cool. I like how they hold you back from progressing in your story missions until you're certain levels, because they know that, hey, this story mission is going to take you into a significantly higher level area. I like that they do not bolster you like Star Wars: The Old Republic did. When you go to these instances, they like, no, you're not strong enough, you can't go there yet. I also like how they do, debuff you when you're too strong in certain areas, which is really good. But the quest flow has been nice. I do like the exploration missions a lot, which that's something too that, again, if you do play this game after you hear this episode, keep in mind you want to do your exploration missions, because believe it or not, those exploration missions do give you a lot of things, not just upgrades, but they also give you resources that you need to craft different items, armor, weapons, upgrade things. They'll also give you more of your little companions, emoti, I believe is how the word is pronounced, that you can get more benefits from the more of those that you have. They will also give you different morphs, different transformations, or shapeshifts, I believe is what they're called. And all of these things are put in the game to give you benefits. So the more morphs you have, the faster your sprint speed is, the further you can glide, all these different things. So keep that in mind when you do it. Another point of this game, and you see it a lot in the advertisements, is the join a guild, be a part of a guild, all of that stuff. It's actually crazy, but that's the way the game is designed, is to be centered around guild combat. We have formed a guild. It's not the VGP guild. This is a guild of the members that we play with. It is called the Unholy Muppets, and it is fun. The guild management screen is intense. I am the leader of it all. I do like how much information is on the screen. I do like how much goes into managing a guild. I believe, Atrax, you might be able to correct me on this one too. World of Warcraft, whenever there were loot rolls on like big dungeons or big boss fights, all the loot, would the guild leaders distribute that, or?
So I'm not entirely sure how all of them work. I know that you can actually set the settings to where it's either random loot or you get to choose like who gets what loot, or you get to roll for it. So it's
Okay.
like a couple of different options, but you get to set it before you go into the raid or the dungeon or whatever it is. But yes, there is that option to where the guild master or the loot master gets to decide who gets what.
So that is in this one as well. Whenever you're in instances, and you can set the rarity as the guild leader. So like the blue or the purple, whatever it is we're doing at the time, comes to the loot pool, and then I distribute that based on either A, who needs it, who wins in a roll, whatever the situation calls for. I like that. I feel that it eliminates the whole ninja loot mess. I don't know if that is also a thing with pugging, because everyone opens their own chest. So I don't know, but I think it's cool. And I look forward to whenever I get that instance of, haha, I hold the power. And we get to see who gets it. So the guild relationships is also a really cool thing. This, I feel, is going to be coming out of a New World instance. And there wasn't an official menu for New World. Honestly, the guild or faction relationships, you had to kind of keep in a mental note or on a notepad for yourself. This one you can have, I believe it's 3 or 4 guilds that are friendly and 40 hostile. So guild relationships is a big thing, because you can have these other guilds help you with the guild fights and things of that nature. And then you have your hostile guilds for whenever you're doing that sort of thing. This is really cool. I do appreciate it, because it's like, all right, cool. You can only be friendly, publicly friendly with so many people, but you can have a lot of people hate you. Like, a lot of people will hate you. And that's something that's really cool, because it's like we were mentioned before about the open world PvP and that one guild that I promise you a lot of people marked that guild as hostile after that whole situation went down. If they're not hostile in chat, boy, I don't want to be them in any PvP instance anymore. The one thing I will say, the guild warnings. Just warnings about the guild if you do decide to make your own guild and you don't want to join larger guilds. Just keep in mind that, again, this game is designed around the idea of being in a guild, so a lot of the stuff you will be missing if you're not in a guild in some way. Whether that be you're leading one and you're passively growing it, or you joining one to be just a part of it to get access to that content. I say that because there is a guild XP buff when you join a guild. There is, passive benefits to your defense. There's cooldown reduction benefits. There's, tax reductions. There's all kinds of stuff that benefits you being in a guild. And guilds can only have 70 people. At 70 active players, and it's up to your guild management to keep the active players in and get rid of the people who aren't as active. That's something you got to keep in mind as well. But have fun. Just if you do decide after listening to this episode that I've sold it enough for you, definitely just keep that stuff in mind. Pick a server in your time zone so you're not missing the content. If you try to play on like a West Coast but you're on the East Coast type thing, then you may be missing a lot of the content, because it is based on the time zone of that server. Atrax, anything else you'd like to add about the game?
I wouldn't know anything about the guild stuff because I haven't been invited yet. Mr. I'm the guild leader.
No. I have 2 guild advisors that handle these things. I don't take care of it.
You hear that? Immediately passes off the buck to the guild advisors. Oh, the advisors didn't advise me to invite my own co-host. Oh,
well,
how dare you throw them under the bus? Poor advisors.
Back in my day, we had people that handled these things. And speaking of back in my day, that's a wonderful segue to our latest segment that we are going to add into the rotation of our reoccurring segments. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we are going to take a look at the gaming history for the month of October and see some of the games that have been out for a very long time. Some of these are older than we are, and some of these we have fond memories of. So, Atrax, tell us today in history.
All right. Well, today in history, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I know this is on your list, but it's technically the very first one.
Oh, that's true.
37 years ago, October 18th, 1987. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out was released, and I'll be honest, I did not play this one, but its impact in pop culture, for example, like in Family Guy, there was a Family Guy skit about it, has been pretty huge. And of course, I mean, Mike Tyson, also a very huge name in boxing and in the world in general. So that game, 37 years old this month. That's it's pretty wild. And then the first game that I have on my list, which is a super fond childhood memory for me, Hot Wheels Stunt Track Driver, released October 15th, 1998. 26 years ago. I played this game on PC for hours. This was like, you could say this was my first racing game alongside Ridge Racer on the Nintendo 64, which did not release in October. But Hot Wheels Stunt Track Driver did. And I still have the CD for this game. I wish I could play it on the PC now. Maybe I'll have to find a ROM or something like that. But this game is legendary. Definite shout out to this. And Rayu, what's the next game?
You know, you mentioned legendary, so I have to throw this one on there. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. October 26, 2000. This game will be 24 years old.
Wow.
This game, I think even now you still have people who are speedrunning Majora's Mask. And this is a common title whenever people talk about Legend of Zelda. I know we hear Ocarina of Time. Majora's Mask is right there with them. Yep. And the fact that this thing is 24 years old, we are old. That's all I can say.
I've still got my Ocarina of Time, not Majora's of Mask. I didn't have Majora's Mask. Majora's of Mask? Where'd that come from? It's been a long day. Majora's Mask. But you know what else is legendary, has stood the test of time? The PlayStation 2 console. Now, it didn't release in October in Japan. That was earlier in the year. But in the United States, it released October 26th, 2000. So it's going to be 24 years old if you still have your PlayStation 2. I've got the fat PlayStation 2, the original. And that, I mean, so many games on the PlayStation 2. One that we'll be covering later this month, so be sure to tune in. Kingdom Hearts, an epic game. And yeah, I mean, again, tune in for that episode because that was epic. Yeah, PlayStation 2, 24 years old. Wow. Ray, what's your next one?
So the next one that we're going down here, and this is actually on your list. Oh, no, this one's on my list. So this one I found, and I thought was interesting because this game did get a recent, I want to say re-release or an expansion release to it on the PS5. It was one of the free games for PlayStation Plus members last month. Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup. October 28th, 2003. This is 21 years old today. Or I'm sorry, not today. This month. So Harry Potter Quidditch released on PS5. Well, I'm sorry. It released for everybody on PS5. It was a free game. And I went in and played it. And it's a very fun game. Love the stories. Love the progression systems in it. It's a really cool thing. If you have a PS5, see if you can still get it. If not, just pick it up if this is something that you remember. But it is a lot of fun. And it has vibes of the old game, but just a little bit more modernized. Hey, Trax.
You know, we've had PC games. We've had PlayStation games. We've even had N64. But let's move it forward just a little bit and go to the GameCube. Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 2 Bush Rescue. I didn't have the first Ty, but I actually had the second one on GameCube. This game was like unique. I wouldn't say it was super popular. Maybe it was. I don't know. But I just remember like there was platforming. You had a little bit of action. You could get different boomerangs. It had this like unique kind of world, of course. All the voice acting was super cool too. They're on Steam. honestly, I might buy them and play them again, or at least wait for like the winter sale and swoop them up for super super cheap because yeah, the Thai games were just so great. Good old GameCube. Did you ever play Thai, Ray?
I didn't play Tie 2. I did play the original Tie, the Tasmanian Tiger, and
Okay.
that so looking back on the Tasmanian Tiger games, the platforming, the multiple boomerangs, even there was a water slide instance. It felt like this was like bumped up to like you played the original Spyro.
Mm-hmm.
Like it felt like this was like another version of like a Spyro type game, but they wanted to throw in a different kind of world element and character.
Dude, and then you had like the ice boomerang so you could like
Yeah.
walk across water and oh man,
Yeah.
that's
It was a good one.
good
It
times.
really was. So next on my list, and it's funny that these are coming up because a lot of these games are kind of getting like new titles just added onto them. Because Dragon Ball's Z Sparkling something is getting released or has been released. But Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2 was released in October 2006. That was 18 years ago. And I don't know if you ever played. I know we've talked before about the
Nope.
games that we played before, like with some of the fighters, but this game, after school, I would go and hang out at my buddy's house right across the street, and we played this game right here for hours, like until my parents would come home, and I was yelled at because I didn't finish my homework. I was playing this game. It was a lot of fun, but now the sparkling whatever it is out, and all the characters are also released into it. So there are some classic ones, even some from this game. So it'll be cool just to revisit that title. Next, I think I've got the next two here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal the one after this though because
Okay.
I love rhythm games.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
I
I got you. I
spoiled it.
got you.
That's okay. Good.
Well, next on my list, Marvel Ultimate Alliance. This is the first one, and this was October 24th, 2006, 18 years ago. This game, I played this game with my dad for hours and hours, unlocking characters, going back on harder difficulties, figuring out the ultimate combinations with the different characters. And I even remember if you had like specific characters of specific teams, then you would get like this passive stat bonus if you had all the X-Men or the Avengers. It was just really, really cool. I wasn't a fan of the later versions of this game. This one just felt right, and it made it just a good memory to hold on to.
You know what's good memories? Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock. Not just for, I'm sure, the both of us, but also for like the world over. Everybody remembers like Through the Fire and Flames and Guitar Hero on expert mode, and like that was almost the meme in school, right up there with my uncle works at Nintendo. It's like, yeah, I can beat Through the Fire and Flames on expert full combo. You can't. Haha. Sucks to be you. I'm an expert. I can do it. No problem. I got it. And then you would like launch it in front of all your friends. You're like, I'm gonna do it. And then you'd play and you're like, oh, this controller's lagging. The batteries suck or something. You gotta replace them. I'm not at home. But Guitar Hero 3 was just, that was legendary. Excuse the joke because it's called Legends of Rock. Released October 10th, October 28th. I'm reading these dates wrong. October 28th, 2007. 17 years ago. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's still, some of the set list is still in arcades today. I believe for the Guitar Hero arcade cabinet, a majority of the Guitar Hero 3 set list is the arcade version. So
I won't lie,
that's awesome.
it had a great set list. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you had what was it, Barracuda?
Reptilia. Yep, that one
Had
too.
oh man, Barracuda. You also had Disturbed. It,
Slow ride.
oh yeah. So just a fun story I'll share with you. We would play Guitar Hero 3 for so long. We actually broke the physical guitar controller. It
Oh,
wouldn't work anymore. So, but we still liked the game. The game still worked and everything. So we were like, well, how can we keep playing? And so we had the idea, what if we plugged in a regular controller and figured it out?
it works.
And that was the biggest downfall of me being able to play this game. I can play it perfectly fine on a controller. Cannot play it on a guitar. Can't do it anymore.
That's
My
funny.
my one of my buddies brought out his PS2. We cranked it up. We started jamming out with it, and can't use a controller.
Dude,
Can't do the guitar controller.
you should play Clone Hero on a keyboard.
Oh, that might be fun.
That's some content right there. Oh man. But you know what else is content? And speaking of threes, the next game in our back in my day, Fallout 3, October 28th, 2008. That's 16 years ago. This game, I can't remember exactly when I got it. Obviously, it wasn't in 2008. I would say it was like 2011, like 2011 maybe, that I played this game. And it was around the time I also played BioShock. Like, I played those two games pretty close together. And this is, again, just a legendary game. It's still on sale or not still on sale, but it's still on Steam. You can find it on sale. And it's just one of those games where if someone says, oh, I want like a first person RPG, if you haven't played Fallout games, play Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. And it's crazy that this game is already 16 years old. It's wild. It was that long ago. And then another really long game. It got a remaster already, but Demon Souls. It's crazy that Fallout 3 hasn't gotten a remaster. I'm surprised Bethesda doesn't do that. Anyway, Demon Souls released October 6, 2009 in the United States. It was released in Japan earlier and in other areas, but in the US anyways, Demon Souls, October 6, 2009, 15 years ago. I didn't play this game until the remaster actually, and I still haven't played the original, but I've watched a lot of YouTubers play the original, obviously with the popularity of Dark Souls. But it's crazy that these games are already super old. And I mean, speaking of Dark Souls 1, October 4th, 2011, 13 years ago. This game, so didn't play Demon Souls, played Dark Souls. Very unique experience with this one. I did not know the lore and the hype and all of that surrounding the game in terms of it was supposed to be difficult. I just knew, yo, this is the new RPG to play. And a bunch of people at school were like, this is the RPG to play. They didn't say it was difficult. They were just like, yo, this game's awesome. So I got it, and it was so mad, or it was so difficult, and I got so mad. Young me, like, ejected the disc and literally threw it across the room, and it stuck in the wall. Cause it's a disc, going into just plaster or sheetrock, just like, boom, and it just stuck. It didn't break. Thankfully, I could return it and get my money back or trade it out. I can't remember what I did. But Dark Souls 1. Now I played 3 years later, and I've beat it. But man, I did not have a good introduction to the Dark Souls series. 13 years ago. Man.
Yeah, time flies. Speaking of flying, Batman Arkham City. I know you can't fly, but anyway. Batman Arkham City.
No, dude, Batman flies, 100%.
October 19th, 2011. 13 years ago. This, if you ever played the Arkham Knight games and you wanted to get out of Arkham, you wanted to go explore Gotham, this was kind of what you waited on. This, we got the Batmobile, we got a little bit more freedom and exploration with Gotham, we got a little bit more of the combat system. Yeah, we got a little bit more revamped combat system, and we had the different modes. I like to say they came from like Spider-Man 2 instances where you could like go and fight the villains, take over parts of of Gotham for like the police and all that kind of stuff. This was a fun game. I sunk a lot of hours in this game, so definitely a fun one if you like the Batman series. Also, another good game that holds a lot of renown in the first-person shooter community, Battlefield 4, October 29th, 2013, 11 years ago. Battlefield 4, Battlefield in general has always kind of been like, do you play Battlefield? Do you play Call of Duty? But then I really think Battlefield 4 is where this game kind of made its own name. And even now, it's still really good. Oh, you don't think so? You think there's another one?
Bad Company 2 and 3. Specifically Bad Company 2, that was when they first had like destructible buildings and stuff. When Call of Duty was like Modern Warfare 1.
Okay, fine.
But I will say that 4 like perfected it. 4 was the end of the good Battlefields in my mind.
I didn't play much Battlefield just because, again, I was more the Call of Duty person back then. But I remember playing Battlefield 4, and it was a really good time, and it's a good shooter. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Variety Gaming Podcast, where we got a brief update from our Game of the Seasons in Foxhole. We were able to cover the latest release in MMORPG land with Throne and Liberty. Got to take a little bit between my views, A-Track's views, and just how we did or didn't like the game. We also appreciate you guys coming back in our day with the games that have been around for a long time and those that we've been able to play for a long time as well. What did you play back in your day? Tweet at us on X at Variety Games Pod. Let us know. Tell us in the YouTube comments or answer the Spotify question. Are you guys playing Throne and Liberty? Yes? No, it's not your thing? Or maybe after my long spiel, you'll try it. Thank you again for listening. We'll see you in the next one.